My mother demanded my inheritance. She declared, "You're being selfish, that money should support the family." She invited me to a family meeting with lawyers ready to force me to sign it over. But when they handed me the papers, I smiled. Funny, I brought someone too. Gus always smelled like motor oil and black coffee. The kind of man who shook your hand like it meant something and fixed things that didn't even seem broken. He was the only one in my family who ever made sense to me. My name's Cal. I'm 28 years old. I live in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, in a one-bedroom apartment above a busted old garage that still smells like rubber and steel from when it used to be a mechanic shop. I'm a welder, got my own truck, my dog Copper, and enough side jobs to keep the lights on. Life's not glamorous, but it's honest. Last Thursday, I got the call. "Cal, it was Bill from down the road, Gus's neighbor. I found him out in the barn. He's gone, son. Stroke. Looks like. Real peaceful." I sat on my steps for a long time after that. Copper laid his head on my knee like he knew. Gus wasn't just my granddad. He was the last real man in our family. The funeral was small. Just me, Bill, and a couple of Gus's old friends from the feed store. No Denise, no Barry, no Mallory. Not even a damn wreath from them. I wasn't surprised. Denise is my mom, technically. But she left rural life behind when she married Barry, some kind of corporate guy with a perfect haircut and a voice like he practices it in the mirror. They live in one of those glass front houses in the Poconos, all clean lines and no soul. Mallory's her daughter from her second marriage, an influencer, which, near as I can tell, means she takes pictures of herself holding smoothies and wears clothes that cost more than my truck. Gus didn't care for any of that. They're all flash. He told me once while showing me how to level a steel beam properly. No foundation. You, though, you got your boots in the dirt. I was the only one who visited him, fixed up his roof last winter, changed out the belt on his old tractor when it threw itself. Sometimes we'd just sit and drink root beer and not talk about anything. After the burial, I went back to the barn. His tools were still lined up perfectly on the wall, every socket and wrench right where it belonged. It felt like he'd just stepped out for a second, but I noticed something strange. On the corner of his workbench sat a small, sealed envelope addressed to me. No stamp, no frills, just Cal in his tight old man handwriting. I didn't open it. Not yet. Something told me this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I didn't open the envelope that day, or the next. I kept it in my glove box, checking on it like it was some kind of live animal. It wasn't until a week later that I heard from the lawyer. "Mr. Callahan," the voice on the line said, "this is Wallace and Griggs. My name is Edwin Wallace. Your grandfather, Augustus Callahan, named me as the executor of his estate. I'd like you to come in." Estate. I repeated. "What estate?" He chuckled lightly. "Perhaps we should talk in person." His office was in Harrisburg, a clean place, all walnut panels and silence. The kind of office where people wore cufflinks and used words like portfolio. I felt out of place in my flannel and work boots, but Wallace didn't flinch. He was in his 60s, neatly dressed, and sharp-eyed behind round glasses. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Callahan," he said, gesturing for me to sit. "Your grandfather left quite a thorough arrangement." I scratched the back of my neck. I figured he'd maybe left me his tools or something. A couple of war medals, maybe. Wallace smiled politely. "Yes, well, he did leave you some personal effects. But that's not all." He reached into a folder and slid a document toward me. "This is the last will and testament of Augustus Callahan. Witnessed, notarized, filmed, actually, just to avoid any disputes." I blinked. "Filmed? Your grandfather was very aware of potential interference. He had a clear-eyed view of your extended family." That got a chuckle out of me. "Yeah, he wasn't exactly subtle." Wallace cleared his throat. "In short, Mr. Callahan, Gus left everything to you. The land, the barn, his tool collection, which is worth a small fortune, but more than that, his financial holdings." I leaned forward. "Holdings?" He invested for decades, quietly, intelligently. Agricultural land, long-term stocks, antique tool restoration. His estate, as of last valuation, is worth approximately $1.4 million. I thought I'd misheard. "What? $1.4 million? Wallace repeated calmly. I sat back, stunned. My first thought wasn't even about the money. It was about Gus, how he'd still bought off-brand coffee, still wore boots with cracked soles, how he never said a word about being anything other than a man with a barn and a stubborn tractor. He always said the quiet dog bites hardest, I muttered. Wallace raised an eyebrow. "Indeed." He handed me a second envelope, this one already opened. "He wrote you a letter. I've read it, as part of my responsibilities. It explains quite a bit." Inside, Gus's handwriting was just as firm as ever. "Cal, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't mourn too long. You've got work to do. I watched you. You showed up. You never asked for anything. You respected the tools and the land and never chased noise. That's why it's yours. The rest of them, they wouldn't know a hard day's work if it hit him with a hammer. Be ready. They'll come for it. But I've taken steps. Love, Gus." I swallowed hard, the letter shaking slightly in my hands. Wallace nodded. "As I said, very thorough." And just like that, I wasn't just Cal the welder anymore. I was Cal, heir to Gus's legacy. And that legacy was about to piss off my entire family. It was Barry's idea to have a celebration dinner. He texted me the day after the will was read. "Hey bud, Denise and I would love to host a little family dinner. Roast beef, your favorite. Just us catching up. You in?" I stared at the message for a while. They hadn't called after the funeral. Not a word when Gus passed. But now, roast beef. Now they remembered I existed. I showed up Sunday evening to their big, sterile house on the edge of a golf course, all stone veneer and too much white trim. Mallory opened the door, her fake lashes fluttering like they might take flight. Cal, oh my God. I was just talking about you. You look rustic. She hugged me for the first time since maybe 2012. Inside, the dining room table looked like something out of a catalog. Candles, linen napkins folded into little swans, and a roast big enough to feed a battalion. Denise floated out of the kitchen like she was hosting a reality show. There he is, my sweet boy, she said, kissing my cheek too hard. We're just so proud of you. Barry stood at the head of the table, swirling a glass of red wine like he actually knew what he was doing. Have a seat, Cal. Let's feast. Dinner started off with forced laughter and second helpings. Mallory bragged about some sponsorship deal involving gummy vitamins. Denise told a story about this hilarious thing our spa girl said. Barry went on about tax loopholes like anyone asked. Then the conversation shifted. So, Denise said, too casually, I heard you've been spending time with Mr. Wallace. Important man. That one. Mallory giggled. Yeah, the lawyer with the little glasses, right? Super old money vibe. Barry cleared his throat. Look, Cal. Let's be honest here. Grandpa's will was surprising to everyone, especially with the size of the estate. Here it comes. Denise reached across the table and placed her hand on mine. But the truth is, honey, Gus wasn't well. He was sweet, sure, but also paranoid. Old people get like that. You know how he got after his stroke. He didn't have a stroke until the day he died, I said flatly. She blinked. Well, still, he wasn't in his right mind leaving everything to you. That's why we wanted to talk to you about setting up a family trust. Barry jumped in. Something fair, equitable, where you're still involved, obviously, but where we can all manage things together, you know? As a family. Mallory beamed. Yeah, like a legacy fund. I already have ideas for how to invest the land into something more brand forward. I stared at them. The whole glossy crew. Their fake concern. Their corporate words. Their lies. No, I said. The table quieted. No, Denise repeated, her tone sharpening. I'm not signing anything. Gus knew exactly what he was doing. He left it to me because I showed up. You didn't even bother to show up to his funeral. Barry laughed uncomfortably. Let's not get emotional. I'm not. I'm just saying no. The air turned cold. Mallory pushed her chair back, sulking like a toddler. Barry sighed, muttering something about immaturity. But Denise sat upright, eyes locked on mine. Well, she said coolly, dabbing the corners of her mouth with her napkin. Then I guess it's time to teach you some respect. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I'd seen this playbook before. They came with smiles. Next, they'd come with teeth. The messages started the next morning. Mallory, hey, so sorry about the tension last night. Hope we can still chat soon. I've been meaning to ask, any chance you could help me cover a few things for this trip I'm planning to Tulum? It's part of my brand expansion, like a business investment. She even included a picture of a vision board that had Tulum Q3 goals scribbled on it in pink highlighter. I didn't respond. Later that afternoon, Barry emailed me a pitch deck, a literal PowerPoint file titled Strategic Partnership Opportunity, Callahan Wealth. It was full of charts, buzzwords, and a projected ROI that looked like it had been pulled straight from a lottery ticket. In the body of the email, he wrote, Cal, this is a rare chance to diversify the estate's assets. A modest $200,000 investment into my consultancy could set us all up for generational wealth. Let's do this together. Barry. Denise called 3 times that week, left one voicemail crying, another yelling, and a third pretending the first 2 never happened. By Friday, a second cousin I hadn't spoken to in 10 years DM'd me on Facebook asking if I'd be open to a microloan to help launch his beard oil startup. I didn't even know the guy had a beard. I ignored them all. Then the smear campaign began. Denise posted a photo of Gus in his younger years, smiling beside a tractor, and captioned it, I miss you every day, Daddy. I'm sorry your final wishes were manipulated by someone who only saw dollar signs. Hashtag family first. The comments came fast and furious. People I didn't even recognize chimed in. So sorry, Denise. Some people show their true colors when money's involved. Your dad deserved better. Mallory posted a tearful video, complete with soft piano music. It's just been really hard, losing Grandpa and watching our family fall apart. I won't go into details, but things have been unjust. We just want what's right. Hashtag truth matters, hashtag grief. It got over 800 likes. That night, I opened a folder on my computer and named it Leeches. Inside, I started saving everything. Texts, voicemails, screenshots of social media posts, even the investment pitch Barry sent me. I saved them with timestamps, dates, and labels. I created subfolders. I backed it all up to a drive. If they were going to turn this into a war, I wasn't going to fight it with feelings. I was going to fight it with facts. By the end of the week, I had over 60 files saved, and I was just getting started. I went out to the barn that Saturday, stood among Gus's old tools, and took a deep breath. He told me once, don't let snakes trick you into petting him. I wasn't petting anything. I was sharpening my blade. It was Tuesday, right at shift change. We were clocking out at the steelworks, me and a few of the guys from fabrication, when the office door slammed open and in stormed my mother, Denise. Full hair, full makeup, 4-inch heels echoing off the concrete. She looked like she just walked off a daytime talk show and straight into a machine shop. Calvin Callahan, she barked, loud enough to stop conversation dead in its tracks. Every head in the room turned. Guys paused mid-joke, half in coveralls, some with grease still on their faces. You could have heard a bolt drop. I stood near the lockers, still pulling off my gloves. Mom, I said, quiet but clear, this isn't the place. Oh, I think it's exactly the place, she snapped, marching up to me. You think you're untouchable now, don't you? Little Mr. Millionaire with Grandpa's money. Murmurs rippled through the guys. I saw my foreman, Rick, lean in from the hallway with a smirk on his face. I told you, she continued, eyes flashing, you needed to come to your senses. But no, you want to hoard everything, like you earned it, like you deserve it. What? Welding pipes makes you special now. Someone in the back coughed to hide a laugh. One of the younger guys muttered, this is better than daytime TV. Denise spun on her heel and pointed at the crew. You all think this is funny? He's turning his back on his family, the people who raised him. Denise, I said, stepping forward. You need to leave. You're not going to bully me in front of your little blue-collar fan club, she hissed. A few chuckles bubbled up. Rick crossed his arms, leaning against the wall like he was watching a show. She poked me hard in the chest. You think it will give you the right to shame us? You think hiding behind a lawyer means we'll just disappear? You owe us. Gus was confused, and you manipulated him. That's enough, I said, flat now. Security finally arrived, Gary from the office, half apologetic, half excited for the drama. Ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave the premises. Oh, don't worry, she spat as she was guided toward the exit. This isn't over. You've humiliated us for the last time. You're going to regret this, Calvin. The door slammed behind her. For a moment, the place was silent. Then Rick clapped, slow and sarcastic. Soap opera mom strikes again. Laughter broke out across the room. A couple of the welders gave me mock bows. You okay, man? One of them asked, grinning. Yeah, I said, brushing the dust off my jeans. Better than I've been in a long time. Later that night, I downloaded the planned security footage and dropped it into my growing evidence folder. Another file added to Leach's. Then I called Wallace. She showed up at my job, I said, calm. He didn't sound surprised. Yes, as expected. Expected? Gus predicted she'd go public eventually. Everything's in motion, Cal. You're doing just fine. And for the first time since this all started, I believed him. 3 days after the workshop blow up, I got served at the mailbox. The guy didn't say much, just handed me a thick envelope and gave me a tight little nod before walking off. I already knew what it was before I even opened it. Inside, a formal notice of intent to contest the will. Denise's name right at the top, with Barry and Mallory listed as interested parties. The grounds? Undue influence, mental incompetence, and my personal favorite, suspicious behavior around asset transition. In other words, they were accusing me of manipulating Gus. I should have been mad, but honestly, I just sat on the steps of the garage and laughed, out loud, for a long time. Copper sat down next to me, tail thumping, like he got the joke too. They were playing checkers. Gus had been playing chess the whole damn time. I called Wallace. They filed. He didn't miss a beat. Excellent. I'll alert Kearns. Kearns, I asked. There was a pause. Yes. We haven't formally introduced you yet. That Friday, I drove back to Harrisburg and sat in Wallace's office again, the sun slanting through those tall windows. This time, he wasn't alone. Cal, he said, standing. This is Marlene Kearns. She's a former investigator with the Pennsylvania Financial Crimes Division. She worked closely with your grandfather over the last few years. Marlene was in her 50s, gray streaks in her tied-back hair, sharp eyes, no nonsense. She shook my hand firmly. Nice to finally meet you, she said. I've been watching your family try to build their case like a toddler stacking soup cans. Entertaining, but not effective. I blinked. Wait, you've been watching. Wallace explained. Gus anticipated a challenge to his will, so he hired Ms. Kearns 2 years ago to quietly monitor any potential conflicts, particularly those involving you. She's documented everything. Emails, voicemails, text messages, financial behaviors. Marlene slid a slim USB stick across the table. I've already submitted my findings to Mr. Wallace. But if you want to see what your family's been up to behind your back, be my guest. I picked it up carefully. You were building a case? For Gus, she said. And now for you. Wallace opened a thick binder and flipped to the last page. And here's the critical clause. Your grandfather included a forfeiture provision. If anyone challenges the will and loses, they automatically forfeit any claims to the estate and become liable for the legal fees incurred during the process. My jaw dropped. Wait, they have to pay? Correct, Wallace said. And thanks to Ms. Kearns' evidence, they will lose. I leaned back in the chair, exhaling slowly. So Gus knew all of this. He saw it coming. Wallace nodded. He did. And he wanted you protected, not just with money, but with proof, with power. Marlene looked at me with a small smile. Your grandfather wasn't just old-fashioned. He was strategic. He knew people show their true colors when they think they're entitled to something. And he made sure I had receipts. Dozens of them, she confirmed. I couldn't help but grin. I hope Mallory's ring light captures her face when she finds out. Wallace chuckled softly. This is a legal process, Cal, not a spectacle. But Marlene raised an eyebrow. Actually, it can be both. I walked out of that office feeling taller, lighter. They'd come at me with lawyers and lies. But Gus had left me a shield and a sword. It came as a text from Barry. Dinner this Sunday. Just family. We'd like to talk. Short, polished, polite, like nothing had happened. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Wallace had already told me this was coming. They'll try to catch you off guard, get you to sign something, make it feel casual so you let your guard down. Let them, Marlene had said. We'll be right behind you. So I showed up, dressed the same as always, work boots, dark jeans, a clean shirt with my name stitched on the chest. If they were expecting me in a blazer, they hadn't learned a damn thing. Denise greeted me at the door like she hadn't screamed at me in front of half my crew. Oh, Cal, so good to see you. Come in, let's put all this tension behind us. Barry was waiting in the dining room, leaning casually against the sideboard, wine glass in hand like he thought he was on the cover of a magazine. Mallory was perched at the table, smiling wide like she was on camera. Uncle Chuck was there too, hadn't seen him in years, sipping beer and looking nervous. There were two other men at the table, middle-aged, dressed in crisp gray suits. They stood when I entered. Calvin, one said, I'm Brent Holloway. This is my colleague, Mr. Chin. We're here on behalf of your family to help mediate some of the misunderstandings regarding the estate. Barry gestured to a thick stack of papers on the table. We drew up something fair. A trust. You'd be the primary, of course, but it lets everyone benefit equally. You know, keeps things in the family. Denise folded her hands. No pressure, sweetheart. We just thought, before things get messy, maybe we can do what's right. What Gus would have wanted. I looked around the table. So calm, so rehearsed. Mallory piped up. I've even sketched out some potential branding ideas for the land. Callahan Country Market. Rustic, but modern. Uncle Chuck nodded eagerly. We're not trying to take from you, Cal. Just keep the family strong. I sat down, slowly, looked at the contract. Pages of legalese, hidden clauses, payout formulas, control provisions. They'd written me out of my own inheritance without saying it outright. I let the silence stretch. Let them smile. Let them hang themselves. Then I set my phone on the table and tapped it. Say hi, Marlene. From the hallway, Marlene stepped in. Black blazer, hair in a tight bun, holding a recorder in a folder thicker than the contract in front of me. She smiled coolly. Evening. The color drained from Barry's face. Who the hell is this? Denise asked, rising. I'm the investigator your father hired to watch every one of you, Marlene said smoothly. And I've recorded this entire conversation, as well as every message, post, voicemail, and document you've used to harass and manipulate Cal. She dropped the folder onto the table. It thudded loud. Barry stammered. You can't just. We can't, I said. And we did. Marlene pointed to the contract. This is textbook coercion. And it just became Exhibit A. I stood up and looked at each one of them. Denise, you didn't come to your father's funeral, but now you want to claim his legacy. Mallory, you called him a dusty old man on Instagram, then cried for likes. Barry, you sent me a deck that used the phrase, synergize the barn. Uncle Chuck opened his mouth. I cut him off. You haven't spoken to Gus since 2009, and now you want a piece? Nobody said a word. I picked up the trust paperwork, tore it clean in half. Here's what Gus wanted, I said, for you to get nothing. And then I walked out. Marlene followed, her heels clicking behind me. Behind us, the room was dead silent. Ahead of us, victory. 6 months later, I stopped hearing from them altogether. At first, there were threats. Denise's lawyer tried bluffing one more letter, claiming the trust meeting was a good faith effort and that I'd overreacted by bringing legal representation. Wallace responded with a smile and a 28-page rebuttal, including timestamped footage from Marlene's recorder and a printout of Mallory's public post saying, "We're going to fix this inheritance mess and take back what's ours." That post alone basically sunk them. After that, silence. And then the dominoes started falling. Barry's consulting firm went under. Turns out, borrowing against your wife's inheritance that you never actually got isn't a great business plan. By May, he was indicted for falsifying documents to secure a bridge loan. His mugshot ended up on one of those business news blurbs. Local consultant faces fraud charges in collapse of Callahan Group. Their house in the Poconos, foreclosed, listed online for auction 2 months after the indictment. I saw the photos. Half the furniture gone. The granite countertops still gleaming like they thought class could be installed. Mallory dropped out of her overpriced branding program in New York. Couldn't afford the fees. Last I heard, she was back in Allentown, trying to restart her influencer career in her childhood bedroom. Her page lost half its sponsors after her legacy betrayal, reel backfired, and people found out she hadn't even attended her grandfather's funeral. Uncle Chuck filed for bankruptcy. No more lake house. No more pontoon boat. Just a for sale sign and a Facebook post about how the economy's ruined good folks. And Denise? Denise got a job at Fernie Style, one of those chain furniture stores off I-83. A friend from town texted me a blurry photo of her behind the register, wearing a blue polo and fake smile. I didn't say anything back. Didn't need to. I was busy. Gus's land turned out to be a gold mine. Fertile, well irrigated, and already zoned for agricultural development. I didn't sell a single acre. Instead, I expanded my welding operation into custom fabrication, started hiring local kids and training them, built out a small trade school program, named it the Callahan Vocational Grant. First scholarship was given out last month, full tuition to a kid named Ray from just outside Mechanicsburg. Smart kid. Reminds me of me, back before all this. A write-up about the program hit a regional trade magazine. Headline: Grandson of rural craftsman turns inheritance into skilled trade revival. I framed it, put it on the wall of the barn. Same barn where Gus taught me how to sharpen a chisel and calibrate a torque wrench. That's the legacy I kept. Not the one they wanted to tear apart. Not the one they thought they deserved. The real one. The kind you build with your hands. It was a gray Wednesday in late October when she called. I was on break, sitting on the back steps of the barn, sipping hot coffee from a dented thermos. The air smelled like cut steel and maple leaves. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Denise. I let it ring out. 5 minutes later, a text came through. Please, just meet me. One coffee. That's all I ask. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I slipped the phone back into my jacket and went back to work. 2 days later, I saw her in person. It was at a dingy little cafe off the highway, halfway between nowhere and nothing. The kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like burnt hope. She was already there when I walked in, thinner than I remembered, hair pulled back tight, eyes a little glassy. She stood up quickly. Cal, thank you for coming. I said nothing, just sat. I know I have no right to ask you for anything, she said, folding her hands in front of her. But I'm asking anyway. Not for me, for Mallory. That name still sounded fake coming out of her mouth. She's struggling, Denise continued. The move back home's been hard. She can't afford her loan payments. Her mental health's not great. I watched her, quiet. I'm not asking for much. Just a little help to get her back on her feet. Maybe a few months of support until she finds something. You'd barely notice the money. I took out my wallet slowly and pulled out a sealed envelope. Set it gently on the table between us. What's this? She asked, suspicious. Gus's final gift to you. She blinked, hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a single dollar bill and a note. This is exactly what you earned. No more, no less. Gus. She stared at it, mouth twitching. The color drained from her face. She started, but I was already standing. Do you know? I said calmly. He wrote that over a year before he died. He had it ready. Said he knew you'd come eventually. Just didn't know when. Denise didn't speak. Just looked down at that dollar bill like it had spit in her face. You chose this, I said quietly. When you treated him like a burden. When you turned your back on him. When you tried to take what wasn't yours. She looked up at me, eyes wet now. I was angry, she whispered. I thought I had time to make it right. I nodded once. So did he. I walked out of the cafe without looking back. The door clanged shut behind me. As I stepped into the cold air, I felt nothing. No rage. No sadness. Just peace. It was over. That was the last time I saw her, and I never spoke to her again.